Hey everyone, welcome to LED Live. Today we want to ask the question, do your eyes tell you lies?
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
Find out on this episode of LED Live.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of LED Live. We're so glad you could join us today. We especially want to thank our patrons who make this show possible. You guys are awesome. You're keeping the lights on and keeping this program going, so we thank you for that. Today we're going to talk about the lust of the eyes. Before we get into that, we just want to let you know we have all kinds of ways that we like to engage people. We like to engage people with t-shirts. You probably see some of these on the show. Let's see, Mikey's got a Realize t-shirt, Realize, Realize, Realize. Scotty's got a God So Loved the World. Michelle's got LED Live. Kendi has the logo.
Yeah.
All nice t-shirts. You can get those on Teespring. Check out the description below for the link, and soon they should be on our own website, and we're excited about that. Why do we talk about the t-shirts? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, we all like t-shirts. I'm not wearing one today, but I like wearing t-shirts, especially to work. It's great. Two, t-shirts help support our ministry. And three, I think one of the most foundational underlying reasons for all this is we know that it's a way to start a conversation. It's a way to wear your witness. People see that, they think twice, or they're like, what does that mean? You get people thinking, you engage in conversation with them, and it's a great way to engage with other people. So wear your witness, engage with people. We're all about witnessing and sharing the love of God with others. So. We also have stickers, we have a Spanish channel, we have Giving Assistant or Amazon Smile, all kinds of different ways you guys can help support us. And so check those out. We hope that they will be a blessing to you and to us as well. So the last show, this is kind of a series. The last show we talked about was the lust of the flesh. And we kind of brought out this idea of devotion versus desire, right? We talked about the struggle in humanity. The story of Eve in the Garden of Eden really kind of typifies what our whole race is going through. Do we choose devotion to God, which is doing things His way, or do we choose our own desires and inclination, doing things our way? Have you guys ever heard of the law of effect?
I have.
You have?
I've
All
heard
right.
of it.
You've heard of the law of effect. Well, Edward Thorndike was the guy who came up with the law of effect. And Edward Thorndike came before B.F. Skinner, is a precursor to him. And if you know anything about B.F. Skinner, he was the guy who developed operant conditioning, where an individual makes an association between a particular behavior and a consequence, okay? Well, here's what Thorndike said about the law of effect. The law of effect stated that any behavior that is followed by pleasant consequences is likely to be repeated. And any behavior followed by unpleasant consequences is likely to be stopped, right? Yeah. Pain versus pleasure. We talked about the idea of hedonism on the last show, maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. And this is something that just kind of really makes sense to all of us, right? Yeah. If you do something that's enjoyable, you want to do it again. If it's not enjoyable, you want to stop. But it's also kind of why people develop addictions, right? We don't have the right amount of self-control in our sinful state to keep us from being addicted. We'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again, kind of like those rats that would go to the heroin water and keep drinking it until they die. And we're the same way in humanity when it comes to sin. All right, so have you guys heard of the halo effect? Is that a video game? No, it's not a video game. All right, good. This is fresh. I like that. So the halo effect is a well-known cognitive bias. It occurs when we judge someone or something or some place as being wholly positive based on a single favorable attribute or aspect.
Wow.
Okay? So for example, physically attractive people are perceived to be smarter, funnier, and more likable than less attractive people.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
That's actually really messed up.
Sounds like high school.
I've
Yeah.
also heard they're more nicer. Like you feel like you can talk to that person. One thing I believe and I've seen with my own eyes is like attractive people get more interaction in public. I mean, if they're walking around a store, someone's more likely to smile and say hi to an attractive person, whereas an uglier person might not even get looked at.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah. So did you know that you'll spend 30% more on brand name products just because they're familiar to you?
Yep.
I experience that every time I go to the auto parts store. And I'm like, do I buy the cheap oil or do I buy the one that I've seen those commercials?
I always get the cheap oil.
All right, so because I have my notes up, it's going to be a temptation to look at my notes. So the two that are flanking me, do not look at my notes, okay? Because they'll give away the answers. And I don't want to do that, so resist the urge, okay? I'm going to show you guys some celebrities, and I want to ask some questions about them, okay? So, which one of these two do you think is more educated?
More educated.
What?
Jessica Alba.
I would say the one on the right seems more like a teacher. Looks more like a teacher. Or something.
Okay. What about you, Michelle and Kendi?
I agree, the one on the right, which is probably the left for the audience.
No.
So she actually is. She's an actress. Her name is Maya Bialik, and she has a PhD in neuroscience.
Wow.
Compared to Jessica Alba.
Who is an actress?
She's also an actress,
And
right?
that's it.
Both attractive people. So based on appearances, you wouldn't necessarily be able to judge their education level, right? But one is actually very educated, at least as far as the world's concerned. What about these two? Which one do you think is more educated?
More educated?
I think the left.
So who is this? This is a Kardashian?
Mila Kunis.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's the chick from 70s Show?
Yeah.
Oh.
And she's, isn't she Ashton Kutcher's wife?
Wife, right?
Yeah. And then the
Which
other one
one?
is,
Mila Kunis.
On the
Oh,
left.
okay.
and then the other one's Cindy Crawford.
Well, I don't.
Okay. Well,
Well-
I know Cindy Crawford's more mature and
Well, Mila Kunis speaks 2 languages.
Yeah.
So that makes her really smart.
it's
I
hard
mean-
because when you look at their character they play, she played like a real ditzy girl. And
Yeah, I mean,
Probably.
you got to think about all these things, right? Who's the more
I'm
educated?
gonna go with
say-
Cindy Crawford.
Mila Kunis.
Let's say Mila Kunis.
And you?
Cindy Crawford.
Wow, you guys are split half and half. It actually is Cindy Crawford.
Okay.
She studied chemical engineering on a scholarship at Northwestern University.
Wow. So what does she do?
She's a supermodel.
She's a supermodel.
Oh, this
She
is
was kinda
before your
like-
time. This is
The
Wow.
supermodel. Okay.
I just had a like, wah, wah, wah. Am I that old?
Generational
I was
divide
gonna be
here.
like, she's like the Pamela Anderson.
Well-
No, you don't know who that is either.
That goes back to familiarity, I guess.
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
goes to
Which is interesting because the two that said Cindy Crawford were based on the generation that they're in.
Yeah, age. See, familiar. We're more
I
familiar.
figure she's more mature. She's had time to study.
I don't think I put this guy in here. Okay, I'll just say chemical engineering is not like, it's not a light subject. Like
Right.
I went to school with, I mean, my BS is in chemistry. I know people, I worked with people who had degrees in chemical engineering or almost. Man, they are just like next level. They are like brainiacs.
Like you can't have a conversation with them because you're like, what?
I had an aunt.
They probably loved it that she was in their classes.
Yeah.
I had an aunt that had a degree in chemical engineering, and she used to work for an aircraft company. She developed some kind of insulation for
NASA or
aircrafts.
something. Wow.
And yeah, I mean, just like brains, these people are. So this is not easy. Another person, you would not expect this. You guys have heard of Dolph Lundgren, right?
No.
No.
Not heard
That's
of
a
Dolph Lundgren.
unanimous.
Are you
no.
kidding me? Rocky IV,
Okay.
the big Russian dude.
Oh, I know.
I didn't
that
know his
guy.
name.
Yeah, and he was in like Universal Soldier and like he was He-Man and all these movies, right? Okay, so that guy, you would not expect that he also has a degree in chemical engineering, and he was on his way to MIT with a scholarship.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that.
So maybe acting, modeling, those are the things that pay the bills or fund their passions, which are what they went to school
But I
for,
mean, like, if you're
maybe.
going to be a chemical engineer, it's not like you're probably going to be poor either. I mean, you're probably going to get picked up by a nice company, and a lot of them, I'm sure, make 6 figures.
Wow.
So, I mean, these are not unintelligent people, but by their looks, like Dolph Lundgren, you would not expect that guy to be like super smart by looks. You also wouldn't expect that he's a European karate champion, but he is.
Wow.
Okay, which one of these two do you think is smarter?
Okay, so I don't know the guy on the right.
And by smarter, we're going to say IQ. So we're looking at James Wood and George Clooney.
Oh,
George Clooney.
Okay.
I know the name. The face wasn't recognizable. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just go with the right.
Are you going with age again?
You
I'm
gotta
gonna
say the
say-
name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say George Clooney
James
just because James Wood's really goofy.
Okay.
I
So I heard a lot of George. I heard a lot of George Clooney. James Wood has an IQ of 180.
Oh, wow.
It's his general IQ. He's actually this really smart guy.
Wow. He hides it well.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's terrible.
There's a general IQ. Now, I mean, he could be dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to tying his shoes. We don't know that. But just a general IQ, you know, problem-solving abilities, however they measure IQ, he's actually considered to be really high. What about these four guys? So we have
Conan?
Ashton Kutcher, we have Quentin Tarantino, we have Matt Damon, and we have
Conan O'Brien?
Conan O'Brien.
I would say
So-
it's either Conan O'Brien.
Wait,
or
what
Matt
are we
Damon.
looking at?
Which one do you
Who's
think
like-
has the
who's more
highest IQ?
intelligent?
Who's the most intelligent?
What? Okay.
I would almost say Conan O'Brien or Matt Damon, one of those two.
The first one. I don't know who's
Thinking
on
of
the
Good
first
Will
one.
Hunting, aren't you? Man.
See, that may have influenced your decision.
Yeah, Conan O'Brien.
I have no idea.
It's hard to. Can you tell by looks?
No.
And I think that's part of the point, right?
we're
You can't
supposed to
tell by
judge by
looks.
looks.
Yeah.
right?
Well,
I
I
think
think the
I-
first one. What's the first one?
Ashton Kutcher?
Yeah.
Wait, the far right?
Well, I know
Yeah,
he's
like on
addressed
that-
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is it
This is a lot of
Senate
fun
or
because I know the answer.
Congress? But I mean, what does that mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah, you're just gonna have to pick one and roll with it.
Wait.
I mean, if I was just judging by looks,
Look.
pretending like I didn't know them all,
Yeah.
Conan O'Brien, he looks like Mark Zuckerberg or something right there. So
Okay.
it's
Right, the way
like,
he's
yeah,
standing.
smart. Yeah, like
What did you say,
Ashton. Kutcher.
Ashton? You?
on the right. Or the
Conan.
left?
On the left.
Conan.
You're talking about Conan.
And
right?
you?
Oh, Conan? Okay, yeah, that one.
I'll go with someone no one picked. So the second from the right. I don't even know who
Matt
that is.
Damon.
Quentin Tarantino?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Tarantino.
He looks like a drunk.
All right. Before I answer that question, you guys know who that is?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, never mind.
Richard Dawkins.
No,
Yeah.
it's not Richard
Oh,
Dawkins.
is
No.
it Stephen
Hawking.
Hawking?
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawkins, yeah.
So all four of those guys have the same general IQ as Stephen Hawking.
Whoa.
Wow.
It's 160.
Wow.
So they're all really smart, right? At least by the world standards. You wouldn't be able to tell necessarily by looking who was the smartest, though, right?
Right.
So it's quite interesting. All right, now we're going to get out of the realm of celebrities,
Okay.
okay? And
Yeah, it's
try to
hard
see
to
if we can make
separate
this more
Who they are or whatever.
more interesting. Okay,
There we go.
so here are two people, and they're both Asian. They're both wearing glasses. One of these I have chosen at random. Like I just went to Google Photos, looked for like Asian dude, and threw this guy into the picture. The other one I chose specifically for his intelligence. Which one do you think?
You can go
I
either
think
way.
on the surface, the guy with the suit, you'd
Yeah,
imagine that he would be
But
smarter.
for
but
my generation-
people that are much, much, much more smarter than everyone else generally are a t-shirt and jeans kind of weird.
Yeah,
So I'm
like,
picking with the left.
yeah.
Or I could have done that to throw you off. You don't know.
I'll go with the Chinese guy, yeah.
Which one?
The Chinese guy.
I'll go
How
with
do you
the
know which one's Chinese?
guy on the
looks
right looks more Chinese.
Yeah.
She can tell. We can tell. She can tell.
I'll go with the guy on the left.
So green shirt or black suit?
Green
Green
shirt.
shirt.
Black suit.
Yeah. My first instinct wants to say black suit, but I'm going with green
It's
shirt.
interesting. Why do you want to say black suit? For those of you that do want to say black suit.
He just looks like he's a businessman.
Right. So
I
it's
mean,
appearance based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, which is kind of the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Well, those that said green shirt, you're actually right. It is. His name is Terrence Tao. He achieved a score of 760
What?
on the pre-1995 SAT. He has a PhD at 20 years old from Princeton, and at 24 he became the youngest ever full professor at UCLA for mathematics.
Wow.
Incredible.
So yeah, he's a math nerd, like
Wow.
big time.
Wow.
It's said that he has an IQ of like over 200.
Wow.
Super smart guy, right? What about these guys?
I'm going to go with the guy on the left.
This is all about
'Cause he
IQ,
just
right?
looks-
Don't say left or right. Just
Okay.
like pick like colors or something. Like the guy with the red and blue shirt or the guy with the
I'm going to go with
blue and black jacket.
guy in the plaid.
The guy
Okay.
in the
With the
jacket looks
glasses.
like a knowledgeable uncle, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting plaid guy,
Uh,
A guy with the glasses.
on looks alone.
Right. Is he
guy with the
go.
glasses,
Glasses.
glasses.
This one's harder, but Yeah, plaid guy.
Plaid guy. So you're half and half. So actually the plaid guy, some guy I chose at random.
Wow.
I chose him specifically to look somewhat like the other guy. But the guy that's wearing the jacket with the blue denim shirt, this is Christopher Langan. He actually achieved a perfect score on a SAT.
Wow.
He dropped out of Montana State University after concluding his professors weren't qualified to teach him anything.
Oh.
ABC's 2020 measured his IQ between 195 and 210. He started talking at 6 months old.
What?
He taught himself to read when he was 3.
Who's his mom?
So,
And he said he has lived a double life for years, manual labor during the day and complex equations in his head at night. He's a construction worker.
this is like a beautiful mind, dude. or
Right. Like, yeah, you should be like a mass architect for like the world's best buildings or something.
Now, the ones that chose the guy with the plaid, why did you choose him?
I don't know. He just looks like some crazy NASCAR.
Yeah, kind of like,
Yeah.
like you got that Einstein look
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
The dude on the other
It's
guy.
interesting because in both cases you're choosing on appearance or features, right? You're making judgments on some single thing.
For sure. High five, Michelle. We got it.
All
I
right.
agree. The guy does look like an uncle, but
Here's a hodgepodge of guys. One of them I have chosen. The others are just completely at random people, just for whatever reason. Whatever,
I'd go with the pensive guy, bottom right. He's like this.
Okay.
We're looking for smarts or whatever.
Yeah. Which one of these guys do you think is the smartest? At least by IQ. Now, IQ is, a debatable thing. Some people can have really high IQs in some things and
I mean, judging
not in
by
others.
looks, my eyes are gravitating to that top left. That dude. It's like a close-up of his head with this collar.
Looks like a banker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the 1800s guy in the white picture at the
Yeah,
bottom.
I'll go with
Okay.
that too.
What did you go with, Kendi?
Bottom right.
Bottom
guy
right.
with the hands in this
Okay.
photo.
Looks like. Billy
Okay, so
Boyd.
Mikey, you're going with the guy that looks like the banker in the top left.
Yeah.
All right. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Oh, nice.
It's Mikey.
Wow.
This man is he's probably the smartest guy you've never heard of.
Okay.
Okay? His name is William Siddis. He has an IQ between 250 and 300.
Wow.
He was one of the highest intelligence quotients ever recorded. He entered Harvard at the age of 11. He was fluent in more than 40 languages
this real?
by the time he graduated, and he worked his way into adulthood.
Doogie Howser.
Embittered over a 1918 arrest under the Sedition Act, Siddis spent the years from 1921 till his death at 46 years old in 1944 running adding machines and doing only menial tasks.
You know how he died?
He was like too smart.
He
I
was
missed this
propelled into his father, if I remember right, was a famous psychologist. He was recognized to be extremely intelligent at a young age. Like he, kind of like Christopher Langan. He was speaking by like 6 months old. He was reading the newspaper by like 11 months old. This kind of stuff. He was so smart. They were publishing his tests and results and stuff in the New York Times. He became widely recognized and known, and he kind of went and became a hermit. It drove him to the point where he didn't want anybody to know who he was. He didn't want anybody to know what he was doing, and he just chose basically this job where he was using adding machines. He could do payroll basically more efficiently than computers, or calculators, whatever they had at the time. And, he just kind of lived his life into oblivion and died early.
He died of loneliness.
Yeah, you think, man, somebody with that kind of brain power, and it just kind of went. But that's not the point of this episode. It's kind of a side tangent. There's also something called the horn effect. So we have the halo effect, now we have the horn effect, right? The halos and horns. It occurs when we let the overall appraisal of something be based on a negative trait. Okay, so it's like the opposite. For example, physically unattractive people are perceived to be less trustworthy, even though there is no connection between morality and physical appearance. Right?
That's true.
Now that's interesting to me in the wake of like Hollywood always wanted to use beautiful people, or the devil using beautiful people.
Earn your trust.
Yeah, because they're earning your trust.
And that was my experience when I used to dress all goth and everything. Parents like, I don't want you to hang out with him. And then they'd meet me and be like, oh, you're nothing like I thought you'd be. I'm like, what do you think I'd be like?
Mikey's playing into everybody. All right. Well, we are, we fall prey to these physical attractiveness stereotypes. We're deceived by our eyes and minds. That's really the point. They tell us, for example, that if a person is attractive, they must be smarter, they must be funnier, all these other traits compared to less attractive people. And it's through our eyes that we really gain the appetite for life. We see all the things our heart desires, and we start to want, right? And we want more. This is why I believe cigarette ads involving cartoon characters were banned in 46 states. Right? Because kids see that, and they're like, oh, it's a cartoon character. I want to be like that cartoon character. I want to be like Joe Camel, who's cool. And they get hooked for life based on an image.
I think that's the power of and that's proof, actually, that advertising works. We show you an image, and it will have a profound effect on you, because you think of like how large cigarette companies are. If that was literally like, whatever, it doesn't affect anybody, they would take them to court and be like, no way, there's no evidence of this. I mean, think about all the evidence that cigarette companies have pushed out into the world that cigarettes don't harm you. You know what I mean? Yet the government was still able to say you are not allowed to advertise with a cartoon. That's crazy.
So I want to show you guys a couple of videos, some social experiments about this, okay? The first one, if you can see the image, it's so ironic to me. They're talking about this, and of course the lady that they have with Anderson Cooper, she is, an attractive lady. I actually had to cover up her blouse with a red circle because it's just like completely hanging open. So it's kind of ironic in the light of what they're talking about and doing this experiment on physical attractiveness and all that and hooking people. And here they are using the news, and what do they use? Beautiful people, right, to tell you the news. So check this out.
We wanted to see how big a role appearance plays in normal day-to-day predicaments, like if you have a flat tire on the side of the road, who would come and help you? Take a look at what happened in our hidden camera experiment. We hired two actresses, Nicole and Joanna, to pose as stranded motorists with a flat tire. Using hidden cameras placed inside this clothing store and parked van, we wanted to see just how many people were willing to help. First up was Nicole, who doesn't have to wait very long at all. Within 2 minutes, help is on the way.
Excuse me, my tire's flat. Is there any way that you can help me?
Yeah, I'll help you out. Let me go find somewhere to park.
Are you working right now? Am I late to... Oh no, I'm so sorry.
That wasn't the only Good Samaritan willing to help Nicole.
My dad usually takes care of this.
Within 30 minutes, 4 more jumped right in to help her.
I can call my mechanic and come to help you.
Thank you.
Including this man, bad knee and all.
I just got over knee surgery.
Oh no.
So squatting down for me is almost impossible at the moment.
Unable to squat down, he does all he can anyway, even offering his cell phone.
Is it okay to call long distance?
Yeah.
Nicole never has to wait long. In fact, she received help from 11 men in just 90 minutes.
Do you guys mind if I just run grab something to eat real fast?
By the time you come back, it should be done.
Awesome.
Now it's Joanna's turn. 5 minutes in, one man does offer to help.
Need some help there?
Yeah.
But after that, a steady stream of both men and women walk right by Joanna, almost as if she's not even there. After 23 minutes, help finally arrives for Joanna from this guy.
Need a hand there, miss?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I have a flat.
For the next hour, however, another stream of men and women continued to walk past Joanna. She's offered help only by this woman, who says she'll give her a ride.
I'll drive you down there. You can go and I'll wait for you.
Oh, that would be really nice of you.
And this man who lends her his cell phone.
Can I offer you my phone that you can call somebody?
That would be great. Thank you so much.
We even gave Joanna an additional 25 minutes to see if anyone else would help.
Is there any way you could drive me there?
Sure.
But a total of 51 people walked right past her while she waited by the flat. Almost no one walked past Nicole.
Thank you.
In total, 3 times the amount of men stopped to help Nicole.
Are you busy at work right now?
No, it's okay.
You know AAA?
Then stopped to help Joanna. And Nicole's average wait time next to that flat tire was 1/3 of Joanna's.
I'll figure it out.
Beauty bias or just good luck?
Wow.
What's interesting is the girl who was the less attractive in the thing, she was nicer and more grateful, and the other one was like, oh, you careful, use your phone, I'm gonna go eat and all this stuff, and yet they're still doing it. The one who is nice and the one that you would really want to help if you knew the person, like if you knew the women, you'd want to help the one that was a nicer personality.
Yep. you can see how kind of both sides are playing into it. She's playing into it by saying, you know, my dad usually does this for me. In other words, I'm single, right? And the other guy, especially the one with the bum knee, you know, he's trying to like really build himself up, you know, like,
I'm gonna hurt myself.
Yeah, you know, this is, I can't normally, but for you, you know, I'm gonna do it. I guess he's hoping to get a favor or something. Wow. So yeah, interesting how beauty bias can work. So I'm gonna show you another one. And this one's from BuzzFeed.
So obviously, life's easier for attractive people. They're thought to be healthier, more sociable, more trustworthy. But who cares? It's stuff like smarts, determination, creativity. That's what determines a success.
Well, in a perfect world, but you got your Beyoncés, you got your Zac Efrons, you got your Keith Haversberger, all very talented people. But do you really think they'd still be here if they weren't crazy hot?
Okay, I'll concede that maybe attractiveness plays a small role in that.
I am actually gonna go test this out. I'll be right back. So we're gonna test this out and I'm gonna make myself up in 2 different ways. First, I went for that I have a terrible cold and I haven't left my bed in 3 days look. No makeup, droopy clothing, I just was not looking my best. In look 2, my makeup, my hair, my clothing were all on point. Ooh girl, I look so good. Then I took both looks to the streets to ask for cash donations for the Los Angeles LGBT Center, a pretty cool organization that fights for equality, to see if attractiveness could help me get more donations. I gave myself 40 minutes for each look. Hi, do you guys have any change to donate to Los Angeles LGBT Center? Any change to the Los Angeles LGBT Center? That'd be great. Oh my God, okay, thank you so much. Just got $10.
I can prove to you that turkeys speak English.
That what?
Turkeys speak English.
Would you like to donate anything?
I can't. Thank you.
Okay, have a great day. Spare change, like any quarters, dimes, anything. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I literally.
Dude, you don't have.
Put it in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, for sure.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh wow. Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
That works. That totally works. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. As I expected, when I dressed to the nines, I got more dimes. About 6 times as many donations. Say what?
Why is this? I mean, in some areas like acting and modeling, sure, looks play a part. But getting charitable donations? Come on. Well, there are a few theories on how attractiveness influences money earned. One is something called the halo effect. This is a bias where your overall positive impression of someone causes you to think that they have other positive traits. For example, if you see someone's attractive, you might think they're also smart, deserving, and trustworthy.
Well, looks like attractive people do have a leg up in life. That doesn't seem very fair.
No, it doesn't. But being aware of that bias does help people think more critically about their actions.
That's a very fair point. You know what is attractive? Not letting a subconscious bias affect your life. That's pretty hot.
That's sexy science for you right there.
Very attractive science. Oh, we'll give it a 10 of a science.
What?
A 10.
10 out of 10 sciences?
Yes, 10 out of 10 science.
Okay.
So is that where the term dress for success or dress to impress comes from?
I mean, I guess it could.
It's almost like, okay, we talked about the pink tax before.
Yeah.
Never on the show we've looked at it where like women products have to charge more and all, or they, the same products, pink razors versus blue razors, the pink razors cost more and there's nothing different about them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're making up for the men. I bet Five Guys and Fries isn't making as much tips as Hooters girls, right?
Wow.
So you
That's
got the
funny.
extra to pay for it. But yeah, this is eye-opening. It's crazy.
Yeah. James 1:15 says this, then when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. This is a dangerous position we put ourselves in, is really what the Bible is telling us. You know, what I want to start to talk about with you guys is there have been all these characters for us to desire, right? And desire to be like. How do we perceive them? Do we perceive them with the same bias as the halo effect, right? As more trustworthy, as smarter, etc. The list goes on and on because your initial engagement with them is by appearance. Right? Same for, of course, this group, you know, not just the princess, but the not just the princesses, but the princes. Now, with the halo effect and the horn effect in mind, I want to show how appearances are marketed to you while communicating a harmful message. Okay? I want to show you a pattern, a trend, if you will. This is not going to be an exhaustive list, but I think you'll get the point. Okay? We're going to go through quite a few examples. And a lot of cartoons are really teaching kids the same thing. They're teaching the same principles over and over again. I'm going to start big on Disney. They have an Icecapades tour called the Follow Your Heart Icecapades tour. Okay? And this, you will see, is going to be a dominant theme. Cinderella 2. Okay? You're going to find two principles in here as we read these lyrics. It says, "Who's to say the rules must stay the same forevermore? Whoever made them had a chance, or had to change the rules that came before. So make your own way, show the beauty within. When you follow your heart, there's no heart you can't win." So we got two principles here. Follow your heart, break the rules. Okay? We've talked about this on the show before. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Okay, so the Bible tells us of all the things in this world, the last thing you want to put your trust in is your own heart, right? Your own desires, because they will lead you astray. So let's start to look at this trend. Move on to, here's some lyrics. True to your heart, you must be true to your heart. Notice the emphasis, right? It goes on, your heart can tell you no lies. Whoa, wait a minute. What did we just read? Your heart will lie to you above all things, right? And it says, when you're true to your heart, it's going to lead you straight to me. Of course, this is in the context of love, but you have to be careful where your heart leads you, according to the Bible.
It's almost like that's really Satan's song. I mean, God said you can have every tree, but this one, did God really say? It's like the exact contradiction, like we just read. Don't follow your heart, it's deceitfully wicked. And this says, oh, your heart can never lie to you.
Yep. Beauty and the Beast. I can hear you, you can hear me. When we listen to our what? Our hearts. I understand you, you understand me. That's the place where we can start. Words of kindness and forgiveness bring us closer together, not apart. When we speak our minds and listen with our hearts. You're seeing the emphasis, right, in Disney. What about Aladdin? Right? He says, tell me, princess, when did you last let your heart decide? Over and over again. Nemo, my heart will lead me there soon. Right? Finding Nemo. Peter Pan, when there's a smile in your heart, there's no better time to start. What about Coco? The rest of the world may follow the rules, but I must follow my heart. Or pitting them against each other. Rules get pitted against heart. Pocahontas, listen with your heart. She says it more than once, right? Listen with your heart. In other words, follow that more than anything else. Frozen 2, here's where we start to get into the rules, right? It's time to see what I can do, test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. All these lyrics from all these songs, from all these movies are being pumped into little children's minds. No right, no wrong, no rules. Listen to your heart. That's what you need to let guide you in life. And it's an anti-biblical message. Moana, listen to this dialogue. This is fascinating. Here's the chief. No one goes beyond the reef. Okay? The chief is the authority, right? The sole authority. Here's what she says. I know. But if there are no fish in the lagoon, and he stops her, Moana. And she says, and there's a whole ocean, right? But what does the chief say? We have one rule.
Wow, just one.
One rule.
Don't eat of that tree.
In the garden, there was one thing they could not do. Just one. She goes on. An old rule when there were fish. Questioning. He says, a rule that keeps us safe, right? It's put there for your good, despite how you see it. And she says, but Dad, notice the relationship, father-daughter. And then he says, instead of endangering our people, so you can run right back to the water every time. I think you're past this. No one goes beyond the reef. Oh. It's amazing the implications that you see in this little dialogue, and you can see echoes of the Garden of Eden, you know. One rule, that's all I asked. One rule, just obey that one rule.
That's
Don't eat from this tree. That's it. That's all I'm asking.
Imagine if they hadn't eaten. That would be a really old rule. At this point,
Yeah,
it'd be like, oh,
it would be an old
man.
rule at
I'm
this
gonna
point.
eat this tree.
It spills over into teenagers too, because they're always trying to climb the ladder. In fact, Disney owns such a wide variety of companies. They hit every age group. It's not just Disney, it's ABC, it's ESPN, it's Marvel, Lucasfilm. I mean, they've got everybody, all right? Here's a teen show, Descendants 2. You want to be cool? Let me show you how. You don't break the rules. I can show you how. So if you're not a rule breaker, I'm going to make you one. Show you how to do it, right? And then they go on repeating these lyrics that are chilling like a villain. Another song from that same movie is I Can Show You All the Ways to Be, W-I-C-K-E-D.
Wow.
Wicked, right? This is what we're promoting to our teenagers. Forget rules, let's be wicked, let's be like villains. Lady and the Tramp 2, Champ's Adventure. Now, you're not going to see the word rule in here. You're not going to see the word heart in here, but just listen to the song. A world without fences.
There you go.
Wait a minute, what does that sound like? Boundaries, which are rules, where I can run free and be with real dogs who bring the real dog out in me. No walls and no boundaries where I can be free. I mean, this sounds like Frozen, right? A world without walls and fences, that's exactly where I want to be.
You sure about that?
I mean, there's a lot of these kind of cartoons. I mean, you think about what's the Abominable Snowman one that we just did, Smallfoot.
Yeah, Smallfoot.
Same concept.
Watch that.
You know what I mean? That there's this world that's confining them, and you're not supposed to go outside of that world. I mean, you see this reoccurring theme over and over and over again. That is a pattern.
Yeah. Wreck-It Ralph, they did the same
Wreck-It
thing.
Ralph, same
The
thing.
girl wasn't allowed to enter the race because it's the king's rules, and all the girls were like, the rules are here for a reason, to protect us.
And you couldn't go to another game. You know, you
Yeah.
were confined to that game for sure.
One little interesting thing a friend of mine pointed out just about the title, Lady and the Tramp. What is a tramp?
Yeah, tramp's usually somebody that is bad, does
Well,
bad
like
things.
you call like a prostitute or a
female.
harlot a tramp. So think of Revelation, the lady and the tramp, the harlot and the woman.
Interesting.
Here's some more cartoon characters, Minions. You know what those guys are all about, right? Here they are, Kevin, Bob, and Stuart. I make the rules don't apply to me. I break the rules.
Oh, wow.
This is really the message that they are sending to children over and over and over again.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If you were to define the heart, what is it? What is it that they're telling you to follow when they say follow your heart?
Your desire.
You were going to say something, go for it.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's just your desire, and like if I fall in love, then that love is the truth. So whatever I want is the trumping truth.
How many people have you seen end up in terrible relationships because they followed this, what is it called? Like, you're just obsessed with each other. It's an obsession.
I wonder how long the world would last if we went without rules for even an hour.
Right. Yeah, everybody wants rules. Everybody needs rules. This idea of being free and doing whatever you want, if everybody had that mentality, it'd be a terrible place to live.
I like driving on the left side of the road.
Right?
Well,
I don't like driving
works
with
out.
my hands. I just want to sit back, you know.
Take a nap on the way to work.
You can do that in a Tesla. Well, here's what it says in Deuteronomy 5:23, and this is just after giving the Ten Commandments as recorded in Deuteronomy. Moses gives the reason for God's laws or rules. Okay, so you shall walk in all the ways which the Lord your God has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. In other words, God is doing this for your own good and benefit. That's why. You see, the law is an expression of the lawgiver. It's an expression of his heart and character, right? So before we move hastily and just throw out the rules and the laws, let's remember that the commandments, all these things that God put in place, they show us what God is really like. Yeah. And they say something about his honor, his worth, his majesty. They tell us what matters to God, right? And so if we have a low opinion of the law, we have a low opinion of the lawgiver. So we talked about these verses yesterday in Galatians 5:16. It says, I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the law of the lust of the flesh. And we talked about the principle of exposure, right? When we're exposed to things, we become more and more familiar with those things, and we become more and more comfortable with them. And so that's why this is important in the realm of entertainment, right? You can see how all of this is coming together.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
I was just to say, yeah, the connection you're probably making is clicking in my head now. The more you're exposed to these sinful acts, the more normal they become.
It has influence in your life. That's really kind of what we're getting at. And if something has influence, then it affects how you behave, right? And so we talked about this battle between devotion and desire, right? We've talked about those verses in Galatians about how there's things that God's asking of us, and there's things that he's asking us to leave aside. And we have to make that choice between devotion and desire. And so there's things like cartoons, and they're made to be very appealing, very attractive to our eyes, colorful in some way, shape, or form. Now, they're not always all beautiful. Sometimes they'll make them more appealing in other ways by making them funny, right? But they make them attractive to us in one way, shape, or form. Also superheroes, right? So we have characters that are like superheroes, right? And these people aren't necessarily always known for their moral upstanding, right? In fact, they do some of the same things that we do as far as morality is concerned. They sin just like we do. They and if you notice, a lot of the characters are made to be very appealing, physically attractive. Yeah. I mean, the women, if we're to put it bluntly, they're all made to look like porn stars. Yeah. Basically.
Painted on clothes.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, who walks around in a bathing suit fighting people? Like going to war in a bathing suit. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever.
And all the dudes have like muscles on top of muscles, and they're just, big chest, small waist, muscular, they got the guns. Yeah. That's what they're made to like. And they're made to be physically attractive in appearance. And people find themselves, interested in that. And then it gains a foothold in your life. It gains influence in your life.
I think it's one of the ways that Lucifer was so able as well to manipulate all of the heavenly host, right? Yeah. He took 2/3 of them in the initial war, right? 1/3 ended up going back, but that idea that he took a third part of the stars of heaven, I think they followed him because he was this good-looking, attractive, he looked the part, and he would know, right? He was the smart one, and
he had beauty and position, closest to God,
beauty and
beautiful.
So the question is, what are all these things teaching us? And I think you're starting to see like what comes out of these things. Here's a fill in the blank for you. What do we call the individuals who represent animations? Cartoon, what? Comic book, what?
Heroes.
It's the same word for both.
Characters.
That's right. Remember the word character, because we're about to go through a short little study here, and the word character is going to become very important to us. Okay? So, we're going to go back to Genesis as our springboard. As Genesis 3:6. It says, so when the woman saw, right, lust of the eyes, that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree was desirable, there's that word desire again, to make one wise, she took of its fruit and she ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. It was her appetite for the fruit that drove her to sin. It was desire, right? It was what she seen with her eye. And just like it says in James, that desire gave birth to sin. She had been told what was right, right? Yeah. But she chose to gratify appetite. She chose to gratify herself. It was both a physical and a mental desire. Okay. Notice this. This is Jesus when he's tempted in the wilderness. Okay. We're kind of using 1 John chapter 2, 15 through 17 as kind of a thread throughout this whole series. And it's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And you can see how Jesus faced every single one of those categories. Okay? So here's the first section. This is Matthew 4, 1 through 2. It says, "Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And when he had fasted for 40 days and for 40 nights, afterward he was hungry." So here's the situation. There's food, there's temptation, right? There is opportunity for gratification. Jesus is covering the same ground as Eve. And here he's dealing with appetite, right? Okay. Now, continues in verse 3. "Now when the tempter came to him, he said, 'If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread.'" Right? So he's tempting Jesus to doubt what God had already said to him. "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased," before he went to the wilderness. Right? So Jesus' response is the response that Eve really needed. Jesus' response was, "What God says is what I will do," because God's word is life. All right, so next temptation. "Then the devil took him up into the holy city, set him on the pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, 'If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge over you, and in their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone.'" So here he's dealing with, in these temptations, he's really dealing with more than physical hunger. How do we know? If we look at this temptation, it's the desire for protection and recognition. Right? If Jesus did this, God would protect him, and it would be obvious to all who witnessed who Jesus was. Like that would just not happen to just anybody, right? And here's how Jesus answered him. Jesus said, "It is written, you shall not tempt the Lord your God." All right, last temptation. "Again, the devil took him on an exceeding high mountain." I've always wondered, like, where did he take him? You know, like what mountain? Did he take him to Everest? Did he take him? I mean, he could have taken him all over. I don't know. But it is an exceeding high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory, and said to him, "All of these things I will give you if you fall down and worship me."
There's that false sense of emptiness again.
It is. It is. False sense of emptiness, right? He's tempted with the appetite of what we behold. The temptation for more, the temptation for gain. Now, all the earth really already belonged to Jesus. He created it, right? He's really the rightful owner. But Satan claimed the earth because the earth belonged to man. God put man over it. And when man sinned, he forfeited his dominion over the earth. So Jesus, in becoming a man, he was paying the price to redeem the land, right? And the only way it could be bought back was by blood. So Jesus answered to him. Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." So this is like, in brief, Jesus' three temptations. He's overcoming in the areas of the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Okay? Now, every single day, you have choices to make. Right? You have to choose to get out of bed. You have to choose to come to work. You're choosing to be on the show. You're choosing all kinds of, you're choosing what you're going to eat. Choices, 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 everywhere choices, right? The choices that we make determine who we are, right? And when Jesus came to this earth, he had choices that he had to make. Every choice he made formed his character. And because Jesus made all the right choices, every single one of us can be saved from sin. Now, when you're constantly beholding programming that is teaching you to make the wrong choices, it leads you to the formation of a wrong character. All right? See how that works? So as human beings, built inside of us is this urge to look to something greater than ourselves. Right? So if you do not need a savior because the choices you make don't really matter, then guess what you get? You get these. Because you're going to look up to something, right?
True.
And if you think about it, the main objective of these characters is not to teach you to have a godly character or even be moral. It's not the main objective. You might get a moral lesson along the way. I won't doubt that. You know, we have people that write us all the time. Well, what about this? And what about this? This is a good thing that happened. And I find myself saying, yeah, I agree. That was a good thing that happened. But it's not their main objective. All right?
I think, you know, like throughout history, you know, this is not a modern problem. This is an issue that's happened. I mean, there's tales of these large beings that, you know, were fighting for the people. I mean, we know that from the Greeks and the Romans, and the Egyptians even had stories like this. So, you know, the devil understands that this is human nature. We have to look up to something like this. And what he's doing is just always constantly offering a counterfeit version of what's already instilled inside of us. I mean, I think it's awesome that we look up to God, like that we want to serve a greater being, a bigger, you know, person, and he understands the character of God. So he goes, well, I'm going to give him the, you know, bleached out sugar version, and here you go. You get a fake, false version, and it's devoid of all the nutrients, and the nutrients is obviously the character work that, you know, that hero needs to be inspiring us to be better morally and, you know, unselfish and all that.
That's right.
So these characters, their goal is not to help you make moral decisions, right? That's not what their purpose is. They're always trying to save you from some outside invasion or force or something, or maybe save your life. But they don't save you from what you really need to be saved from.
And to be honest, like they, especially like let's just kind of pick on Marvel for a second, because, you know, Iron Man is obviously somebody that was a narcissist, you know, rich, wealthy. He was somebody that you would not say is a type of anything God, right? But then towards the end of the whole series, you see that he actually really wants to save you. And you know, that narcissism, you can look past that, and he really just wants to preserve all of humanity. Yeah, he's got some flaws, but he wants to preserve humanity. But look at what's going to happen in the very end, like, of the world, right? Satan is going to rally around to fight against God's government one last time for the preservation of life. Does that make him a good moral person to follow?
No.
No, but he wants to save life. So you can see how this parallel here is not the same as somebody on God's side. Just because they want to preserve life does not mean that is a good thing.
Yeah. So we already mentioned that the vast majority of these characters are made to look physically attractive. They're designed to appeal to the eyes, appeal to the flesh, and it's with that I want to look at something amazing with that thought in mind. Okay. Ezekiel 28:12 says this: "Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre and say to him, thus says the Lord God, you are the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty." This is a Old Testament passage talking really about Satan. If you look at how the Bible describes Satan when it comes to physical appearance, it teaches us that he was beautiful, right? He was, but even though he was beautiful, he was the one that led people to rebel and break the rules, right? Now look at Jesus. The description Isaiah gives him is this: "For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him." So you look at the contrast between how these two are described. Here we have the one who is not the most attractive, but what is he teaching us? Not to break the rules and not to follow your heart, but to do the will of God.
Almost simply to just prove a point, because Jesus was very much desirable in his day-to-day life. Like there was no beauty found in him physically.
Right, no physical beauty, but his character was beautiful. He was the one that little children wanted to be around, that people loved to hang out with, you know, and it didn't even matter as a sinner, like if you're a tax collector, you would still hang out with Jesus because you're like, wow, this guy's amazing.
Like the two girls with the flat tire, you'd probably more be likely to be friends with the uglier one. She was the nicer one. You might start a friendship with the beautiful one, but she's probably not that good in character.
She'll break your heart.
Yeah. So we have this desire to be like what we see, right? But we are not looking at the right picture. And the right picture is what we need, and that right picture is Jesus. And by looking at Jesus, that's how we're going to be transformed. And that's how we can be led to make the right choices and form the right character.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the study for today. We have one more. You guys have any other closing thoughts as we end this episode?
I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on the character part. You said, remember that word character. What would like be a closing thought of how that wrapped into what you're saying?
Yeah, so the connection is here they are characters. What kind of character do they have?
Yeah.
What kind of character, when you look at them, when you behold them, when you start to become like them, do you have? What kind of character is shaped by beholding them versus beholding Jesus?
Wow.
I always kind of think about that when you see little kids with the Minion backpacks on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they love that character. They love that little cartoon, and the way that all of those little cartoon characters are constantly, promoting mischievousness and stuff. You could just think like, is that kid gonna be more mischievous because of that? I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, like you're talking about these cartoon characters and stuff. These essentially become like your companions, your friends, right? You're like spending most of your day with these guys. You got them on your backpack, like you're talking about, posters on your wall, and it's changing your character. There's a verse in Proverbs. You know what it is about companions of fools?
Yeah, Proverbs 13, verse 20. It says, "He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed."
Wow. How true. Well, thank you everyone for watching this episode of LED Live. We hope that you learned something edifying, some reasons for your faith, and we hope that you will join us with the next episode. Make sure you leave some comments below. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you hit that notification bell so you can be notified when the next video comes out. And we just thank you guys for joining us, and have a good day. We will see you on the next episode. Take care.